These are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Kenny, and I am the Green Infrastructure Coordinator for the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources. It's my privilege to welcome you to today's webinar, From the Ground Up, a Grassroots Approach to Stormwater Management. In this webinar, we're shining the spotlight on 6 organizations who are working to improve stormwater management in Vermont. This includes 2 nonprofit groups, 3 quasi-governmental entities, and 1 institution, so a diverse array of presenters today. And I've personally had the opportunity to work closely with a number of these organizations, and I'm really impressed by their efforts. These folks are on the front lines of Vermont's green infrastructure movement, and despite many barriers, somehow are able to turn ideas and concepts into reality. And we certainly would not be successful without their efforts and hard work. Just a few notes before we begin with the first presentation. We are recording the webinar, and we'll post a link to that in the next few days on our YouTube channel. And let me just show you that link right here. So it's www.youtube.com/user/VermontGI. So again, we'll send out that link, but if you wanted to check out some of the other webinars that are on there, feel free. Here's the list of presenters that we have today. Ann Smith with Friends of the Winooski River, Bob Spencer with the Wyndham Solid Waste District, Dan Albrecht, Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, Denise Smith, Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, Laura Duglecki with Winooski Natural Resources Conservation District, and Rebecca Tharp with Lake Champlain Sea Grant. During the presentation, attendees will be muted, but if you have questions, feel free to post them in the question box or the chat panel in the control panel, which should be on the right side of your screen. After each presentation, we'll answer 1 or 2 questions, but if there's more than that, we'll probably save those towards the end and ask them all at once. If you have any questions for myself, also post those in the question or chat panel, and I'll try to answer those. So, without further ado, I am going to hand it over to our first presenter, which is Ann Smith with Friends of the Winooski River.
Okay, can everybody see the first slide that came up that shows Friends of the Winooski River?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, just a little bit about the Friends. As Justin mentioned, we're one of the nonprofit groups. We have, I work part-time to full-time depending on the time of year, and we also have a part-time project manager, so we're quite small. However, we try to do a diversity of things related to stormwater, and I'll touch on each of those as we go through this. First of all, a little bit about the Winooski watershed. It's about 1,100 square miles. It's the largest watershed in the Lake Champlain Basin. It's very diverse in the sense that it has pristine streams in the Green Mountains, a lot of small town centers and rural areas, but it also includes the most urbanized areas of Vermont, which is the greater Burlington area, which is at the mouth of the Winooski, and also the capital of the state, Montpelier. Prior to moving to Vermont, I lived in Philadelphia, and I worked on stormwater in Philadelphia and the greater Philadelphia area. So I very much saw stormwater in a really highly urbanized setting. Moving to Vermont and coming to work for a watershed group here in Vermont, I began to view stormwater more broadly. The program, in terms of how we approach stormwater, is also diverse. The greater Burlington area is the only regulated area under the MS4 program in the watershed. The rest of the watershed is not regulated. More of our work is focused outside the regulated area of the watershed. You're going to hear from a couple of folks who deal in that section of the watershed later. I'm going to talk really broadly about 3 areas: assessment and planning, implementation, and education. So with respect to assessments and plans, and getting back to this idea of starting to view stormwater more broadly, one of the areas we work with is dirt roads. Vermont, most municipalities have pretty extensive networks of dirt roads, and this is a large source of sediments and other contaminants. We've worked with a number of municipalities to develop assessments on a town basis, and then we go on and we present the data to the town in terms of where particularly problematic areas are, and then we work with the towns to implement results. Another somewhat, I guess, non-traditional stormwater tool is we work with corridor plans. These are the end products of stream geomorphic studies. They're focused on, very broadly the physical characteristics of the rivers, but they often also identify very specific stormwater inputs or concerns. Another tool that we've helped to generate and also work with is town-level stormwater infrastructure maps that the state has generated. Some of these go on to identify initial stormwater retrofit opportunities, and we've worked with those to identify projects and move those forward into implementation. We also, from those or even separate from those, have created separate stormshed-based projects. And the photo you see on the upper left there is one that we're just starting to work with in the city of Barre, where you can see there's a lot of open land near the top of this particular area, but then it comes into a very densely built urban area that also happens to be on an extremely steep slope, anywhere from 15 to 20%. And there's a mix of things going on there. There's, some very traditional curb and gutter, but there's also dirt roads and driveways mixed in, and areas without any curb and gutter. So there's a lot of different little solutions that are probably going to be needed in an area like that. I didn't mention the photo on the lower right, but that's a very common thing we see along our dirt roads in Vermont, is because often they're very steep. You get a lot of erosion along the edge of those, and then they enter, the erosion channels enter into the stream. So those are the types of things we're working to correct. And the last area that we work with respect to assessment and plans is we've done a number of IDD studies looking at stormwater systems and outfalls to determine if there's other contaminants that are coming or other things flowing into that other than stormwater. Moving on and talking a little bit about implementation, any of the plans that we work with, we try to work with them with the eye of moving projects towards implementation, whether we do it ourselves or we work with and encourage towns or other organizations to do so. We have done some modest-sized bioretention facilities. One of those is illustrated by the two photographs you see there. I think you can tell the before and after pictures. This situation, if you look at the photo where you see the tractor trailers and you see essentially a swale that was sort of created in this dirt parking lot of a hardware store, that photograph was taken from essentially the bank of the Dog River. So that swale is funneling that water directly over the bank and into the river. And actually during Tropical Storm Irene, things got even worse because of the amount of storm water coming in and the high flows in the channel. The bank actually collapsed. It was put back together hastily and then began to erode again, which is when we got involved. And the upper left, what you see is we hardened the surface of the parking lot, and instead of the swale going directly into the river, the flow now sheet flows off to the side and into a bioretention swale that you see sort of along the upper edge there. So that's the size of the project that we'll get involved in, and we like to have ones that have high visibility so that they can be teaching opportunities as well. We have another facility, for example, at an elementary school. I mentioned in the assessment section that we work with road improvements. In this case, rather than trying to implement projects ourselves, this is really about encouraging towns to do so. And these road improvement projects have dual benefits. One is reducing the flow of stormwater into the stream and the damage that it's causing to the streams from an ecological standpoint, but it also potentially saves the towns money if they can reduce the erosion off of those roads. In the case of road improvements, we've also been taking it a step further beyond working with the towns. In many communities in Vermont, there's also an extensive network of private roads and long driveways. And we're working a lot through education to try to encourage the owners of those roads and driveways to manage those better and to reduce runoff. We also work on what I'll call residential scale practices, and these are rain gardens, vegetated swales, rain barrels, dry wells, etc., trying to get people to understand that everything they do can have an impact on stormwater. Which leads us into the last section that I'm just going to touch on for a second here, and that's education. We work in a lot of smaller communities where one of the things we really have to start with is just raising the awareness of the stormwater issue, and that it is an issue in their community. I think people, going back to what I said about myself, I think far too think of it as just a really highly urbanized issue, and the truth is, it occurs in small communities as well. So we've found that rain barrel workshops are really nice ways to engage people. One unique project that we did, we worked with a high school art class, and they painted barrels. And I know that's been done before, but the really cool part of this that was the suggestion of some local folks was we put them up for silent auction in some businesses around town. And this was in a town where there really had probably been no stormwater education or outreach, so it was a really nice way to get into the community with the kids being involved, and some bidding wars even occurred on some of these barrels. We collaborate a lot with local groups. We find they know how to put together events, the language, the ideas that are really going to appeal to people on a local level. Like many folks, we're using social media and local media a lot to just continually get the word out and remind folks of how to, or how they can get engaged and help reduce stormwater runoff. And then the last item I'm going to touch on before turning this back to Justin and any questions is we've also done residential site assessments, and these are pretty low-key, but just the idea of going out and meeting with homeowners and looking at their properties and giving them really a few tips that they can use to reduce the stormwater coming off of their property. And what we hope with that is not only the impact on their particular property, but again, the local networking and the neighbor-to-neighbor, peer-to-peer kind of education that can be a result of that. So those are the things very quickly that we're up to, and I guess I'll take a couple of questions, and I'll turn it back to Justin.
Great. Thanks, Ann. So we'll wait, see if any questions come in, but I actually have one for you. In terms of your education efforts, what are you finding to be the most successful in terms of your approach?
It's really the local collaboration, and a recent example, I've been working with what's the Calais Lakes and Streams Committee, and they have their own little newsletter that they send out. It's been well established. It's gone out for probably 8 or 10 years. They know really the network of folks in their town, and they know how to reach out to them, and they really know what I'll say is the awareness level. I started writing something for them this spring, and they very politely said to me, "You're getting way too detailed, way too technical. People just aren't there yet." And they helped me rewrite it so that it resonated with people, and it made sense. So I mean that's also honestly one of the things I really like to do is work more locally with people. But I think for the communities that we're really focused on, that kind of local connection is really needed.
Great. And then on the flip side of that, what do you think your biggest hurdle is or barrier?
I would put that on the implementation side. The types of projects that we are encountering or that I really feel are useful for us to work on are retrofits where there's multiple property owners involved, and the stormwater may be generated from properties, but the best place to treat it is on someone else's property, and to work, convince that landowner to essentially do a public good by allowing us to work to retrofit something on their property. That's a lot of what we see with the, not all, but with a number of the implementation projects that we try to approach.
Okay, thanks. I don't see any questions coming through. Oh, Rick Hopkins has one. He's in the room with me. Rick, go ahead.
Oh, Ann, thanks very much. I was just wondering, Ann, could you share with the group your experiences with the SEP process? The
fine, for lack of a better, the fine process. That's what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and how you were able to weave the SEP-related activities into, one or more of the pieces that you just described.
We've worked with several SEPs. I don't know if any of them have really been explicitly related to stormwater. I know out of the Cabot situation from a few years ago, we've done a number of different types of projects, and we've done a couple of stormwater-related ones up there, a rain garden in Plainfield, and also some other smaller projects.
Well, thanks, Ann. I just, it is an avenue that doesn't appear all the time, but when it does appear, right. I think the SEP process does allow groups such as yourself to even further push the envelope when it comes to, innovative ways to deal with stormwater or agriculture or a number of runoff-related issues. So if for folks in Vermont that are aware of that, it does provide an opportunity to do further stormwater control.
Yeah, and actually, I'm sorry, I want to take that back for a second, Rick. Actually, the first IDDE project that we did was actually under a SEP, and it was in a community that was and still is unregulated, and therefore is not required to do that. So we did do in Barrie the IDD study back in 2007 under a SEP. So you're right, they are very useful tools in that regard.
So for reference, folks that don't know what SEP is, I believe it's Supplemental Environmental Project. So if there's a fine or a violation, there's an amount of money that goes into this separate pot that can be used for various projects. And we did get another question that came up, and Erin's going to ask that to you.
From your interaction with private property owners, are the financial incentives offered to private property owners enough to make them install green infrastructure, or are they installing green infrastructure for other reasons?
So far, I would say they're installing them for other reasons, and that's mainly to be a good citizen. I think there's two actually that I'm working on developing now where I would like to, one in particular I think could be a make or break as to whether or not the property owner will allow us or will agree to do the stormwater mitigation on their property. I think it's something that we need to consider, as incentives to folks, and what I think a question could be, what is the source of that money? And it could be public, it could be private, but I think if we're looking at retrofitting in areas where you're in many cases going to be dealing with multiple landowners, there probably does need to be some kind of incentive program, or at least an assurance to them that any cost of maintaining a facility that's on their site is not going to cost them any, that they've got some kind of compensation to cover that maintenance over some reasonable period of time.
Oh, sorry, it looks like I was muted. Did anybody hear the last thing that I said? Probably not. All right. And I was just saying thank you for joining us. I know you have to go. If we have any other questions that come up, we'll send them your way. And now we're moving on to our next presenter, Bob Spencer, who's with the Wyndham Solid Waste District.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Can everyone hear me?
Sounds good.
Okay, I clicked on Show My Screen. Do you see something that says Play?
Yeah, well, it looks like we're seeing your screen.
Okay, good. I'm not going to run it quite yet. I just want to do my intro. We are located in southeastern Vermont near Brattleboro. My office is in Brattleboro. We're a solid waste district comprised of 19 towns. We run a MRF, a processing facility for bottles and cans and paper and cardboard. A year and a half ago, we started composting of food waste. And the Wyndham Solid Waste District is like all the other districts in Vermont, facing a new mandatory composting law passed by the Vermont legislature. It actually takes effect, the first phase, this July 1 for generators of about 2 tons of organic material a week, which is like your large supermarkets, perhaps some hospitals, colleges. And then over the next 6 years, it ratchets down and eventually by 2020 reaches all households to divert food waste. We all recognize there has to be markets for compost for this whole initiative to be successful. I've been in the composting industry for 25 years. I am serving as a part-time executive director of this solid waste district, and I also work as a consultant in the composting industry. Part of my volunteer time is with the Composting Association of Vermont, and we're a volunteer board, a not-for-profit, and we have been working to increase the use of compost products for stormwater management. And for the last 4 years, CAV, Composting Association of Vermont, has been running a series of workshops throughout the state on best management practices for soil-based materials, compost and soil and mulches for erosion control and sediment control and nutrient runoff control. And 4 years ago, we started working with the Vermont Agency of Transportation, who expressed interest after one of our workshops that we did for their engineering and stormwater staff in amending the the erosion control specifications that V-Trans uses for construction projects. They wanted a demonstration project in Vermont that showed how these materials would be used and something they could go see. So we were able to find a project with funding from Green Mountain Coffee Roasters in the town of Jamaica, Vermont, which is in northern Windham County. It's near Stratton ski area. It's a hilly area. This particular project, which I'm going to show you some pictures of and a video of, was a washout from Tropical Storm Irene. And I'm going to just play the video. It's only 2 minutes, and then I'll show some slides of more detail of how a project like this is done. But this was an alternative to conventional rip-wrapping or total reconstruction of a steep hillside using a compost blanket and compost filter socks. So here goes.
This is a about 6,000 square foot slope.
Bob, it doesn't look like the video is actually showing.
Irene.
It's not showing?
The road was
No, it's just a gray screen.
All right, hold on.
Back in and we're stabilizing.
Sorry about that.
See the timer.
We're looking to stabilize it and naturalize it.
Then I'll go to, hold on. It's playing on mine. Do you see my screen at all now, Justin?
Yes, we do.
We did practice with a slideshow yesterday. I didn't have the video yet, so that's my fault.
Yeah, Bob, you might just want to go to the presentation.
Okay.
It might have just been an issue in terms of showing your application versus showing your desktop.
Sure. Well, let me go to my... Okay, I'll full screen this. I don't know if many of you are, I apologize for that, familiar with there's a technology development company called Filtrex that has been spearheading the use of a proprietary filter fabrics and materials. We at the district use one of their contractors for this project in Jamaica. So this is no endorsement of Filtrex over other technologies, but here's a few shots of how filter socks are utilized, and there will be some of the Jamaica project. So anyway, you can stake these tubes that are filled with a mix of compost and bark, and there's a specification for each project, whether you want it to do a lot of filtering or basically impound water as an inlet protection. They can be staked to the ground. These are alternatives to hay bales and silt fence. I mentioned inlet protection, that the Vermont Stormwater Manual is being modified to allow for use of filter socks for inlet protection. You can see these slides, right, Justin? Okay.
Yes, I can see them.
Here's another inlet protection shot. Again, this is in a residential area under construction. I've done a number of these projects throughout New England. A fairly large-scale demonstration in Boston 6 years ago, where the entire site was developed using compost and soil amendments for erosion control. It was a LEED certified project called Olmsted Green. Here's a ditch retention sock. You can also make a mix, and this is what we did in Jamaica, and put it in the sock that with seed in it and fertilizer, so that you can grow grasses. You can even put other types of plants that you want in the media. Some of these are used in rain gardens, as Ann talked about rain gardens, but you can make rain gardens with certain vegetation. The compost erosion control blankets are basically sprayed onto a site using a blower truck, and you get excellent contact with the ground surface. And the idea is to germinate the seed growth and stabilize the bank. And these are often done up to slopes of 30% or more, which you'll see in Jamaica. The use of compost is preferred because it has very high moisture retention capacity, and therefore decreases erosion from storm events after it's been installed. There's just a shot of turf growing out of soil and compost. Many studies about use of soil, compost, and organic matter in turf establishment from many universities. You'll see in the Jamaica project we used a mesh-like material. It was a steep slope, and laid this down and then blew the seeded blanket onto the surface, so it stabilized on the bank easier. There are biodegradable nettings. This is not biodegradable. That is an issue in some areas, depending on the regulations. Here's a shot of this isn't the Jamaica project, it's another project, blowing the compost onto a slope. You can see the netting, the greenish, in place. The truck below is filled with the growing media, and then it's pumped and through this hose and then laid down, typically about 2 inches thick. There it is, seeded at the base of an athletic field. This is Jamaica, Vermont. This is the project I tried to show you on my video clip. The town could not get FEMA funding to fix this bank because it was above the stream and above the road. We're standing on the road surface there. And the riprap was put in at the base of the slope, and then our challenge was to stabilize the slope above that because sediment was flowing onto the road and then into the stream, very beautiful stream called Ball Mountain Brook. This is the actual blown-on compost material. You see we put it right over a lot of the riprap and then right up the bank. If you look in the upper left corner, you'll see 3 filter socks, one on top of each other. Those were filled with a seeded material, and it made a retaining wall. And then at the very top of the slope, you can see an orange and black tube that goes across the whole upper section of it to help divert stormwater flowing down onto the surface. You can see the filter socks in the lower picture at the top of the bank and also along the middle section of the bank. And again, another shot of that. And 1 week later, the bottom picture on the right is germination. This is another project done in Vermont. So basically, we are finding that, and there's a lot of data out there, if you look into use of best management practices, there are cost-effective ways to utilize soil-based erosion control methods. There's linear feed calculations showing comparisons with filter sock versus silt fence. You don't necessarily have to remove the filter sock after the project's been stabilized, particularly if you've used the biodegradable burlap sock. So that's basically what I was going to present today without the video, so my apologies. Questions?
Great. I don't see any questions yet, but I did pull up the video from the CAV site. I can try and run it on my computer and see if that works.
Oh, that would be great. I got the video. I have it on a disc here, so if you want to try to run it, that'd be great, Justin.
All right, yeah, so I'm going to pull back control to myself. I'll keep you on the line and see if the video... Does that come up?
It's there.
All right. Is this the right one?
Yes, thank you.
Hopefully the sound will...
I was afraid to take it off the website. Audio?
Doesn't seem like it's on.
Well, that's our chairman of the select board.
So I'm getting feedback that the audio is not working, and it's not showing up that well on the screen. So I'll just send this link out, Bob, to folks after the presentation. That sound good? You still there, Bob?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it sounds like you're in a wind tunnel.
Yeah, there's a generator that unfortunately just came on. I've got a... Anyways.
Well, so it didn't look like there's any questions, but if any come up, I'll send them your way through email.
All right. Well, I apologize for the technical problems, but... All right. Well, good luck. I got to run.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
All right. Sorry about that, folks. Always happens with technology. There's no way around it. We're going to move on to Dan Albrecht now with the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. And hopefully Dan is ready to go.
Okay, this is Dan. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to go to... I'm going to show my screen here. All right. Okay. All good there?
All good, Dan.
Okay. So I'm Dan Albrecht, Senior Planner with the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission in Winooski, Vermont, which is a city right next to Burlington, Vermont. We are, as I like to sometimes tell people, we play a county on TV because this being Vermont, as similar to other parts of New England, there is no county government. So county planning commissions, which have been around since the late 60s, early 70s, take on the role a little bit of an association of municipalities. And so we work on a lot of projects that are regional in nature, multi-town in nature. We do a lot of GIS mapping. We do transportation planning. We are the MPO for the Chittenden County area. And just to give you a better sense of context where that is, if you basically the northwest corner of Vermont. So I'm going to talk about mostly about our Chittenden County Regional Stormwater Education Program, which involves 9 municipalities. This is the part of Vermont that sometimes people say isn't Vermont, although it's just as legitimate as the rest of Vermont, but it's not the picture postcard area. We have Burlington, a small little city with a university and a hospital. We have suburban towns such as parts of Colchester and Essex, Williston, so on. We have a mall or 2 or 3. And then we have parts of our MS4 towns here that are quite rural in nature, depending on their zoning. So it's pretty much more than 25% of the population lives here. The whole county population is around 140-some thousand. This MS4 area is a good, probably close to 100,000 of that. And we have non-traditional MS4s as well. They're listed on the page. So as I mentioned, we have some MS4s, and our program of the Regional Stormwater Education Program focuses on minimum measure 1, and I won't read through the rest of those because you're all familiar with those, public education and outreach. So the way we wanted to do this was basically, in a nutshell, what the municipalities agreed to do is to pool their money and pay dues to us, annual dues to the RPC, not really dues, but a contract we have with them, and maximize those dollars and have one MS4-wide outreach education program. And like a lot of pooling is money, you know, there's many reasons to do a cooperative regional approach. So we pool the money, and we've been doing this since 2003. We have an MOU, and we meet we used to meet monthly, now we're more on a quarterly basis because we've been doing this for over 10 years now of our municipalities. Just to go back again, and what we try to do, say we have an MOU that started in March of 2003, the dues there, and essentially we, the lead agency, the Regional Planning Commission, we contract with a marketing firm to help design and implement a communication plan, ads, the target audience, the rationale, the message, and then a media plan, which is essentially a media buy of radio and TV, newspaper, things like that. And the other reason we pool the money is that, you know, when you look at the 6 minimum measures that the EPA requires, you'll notice that the first 2, public education and number 2, the public involvement part, aren't really skill sets that municipalities have, let alone their public works department folks or their road crew people in the case of the smaller towns. So there's a reason you hire consultants, and ideally, you know, it's a specialized skill set that staff does not have. So that's why we, again, went with a marketing consultant. And they use what's often talked about in the marketing world of social marketing, and this has been done on recycling campaigns, political campaigns, you name it, and you've probably seen a webinar about social marketing with stormwater outreach. I know I have, and the term is discussed quite a bit. So like a lot of areas when you're starting out, there's different levels of awareness about it. So in 2003, we did a baseline survey about, like, what do you know about stormwater, and where do you think the rain goes, you know, when it flows down the road or off your lawn or off your driveway. And you can see from this that, you know, there's you know, behaviors that, well, a lot of people just didn't know where stormwater went, that it goes into a drain and then straight into creeks and rivers and so on. There was certainly an awareness of larger commercial developments, and in terms of behavior, you know, things like dog poop, there was still quite a few number of folks not picking up their dog poop. So this was the gap we're trying to address with our programming, where pollutants go, the link between stormwater runoff and water quality, and their role as individual homeowners and business owners. What can they do to make things work? So basically, our plan in a nutshell is, you know, was closing the gap between the public knowledge and their behaviors. So I'm going to hop over to our website. So basically, we've been, since 2003, running a set of spring ads for about 6 weeks, and running ads usually around August, September to drive to web. I'm going to exit out of that and pull up our website here. So the purpose of this, everybody see the website there?
Yep.
Justin, you see the website?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, great. So this is our website, and again, all of our ads try to get people to go to this. We don't really distribute a lot of brochures or printed material. So we've been focusing, you know, we try to give people information about where they can go, and this website has evolved over time. I'm just going to highlight a few things. How am I doing on time, Justin?
You've got about 7 or 8 minutes.
Okay, great. So we've basically we really try to point people to the problems and the solutions there, get people focused in. Initially, a lot of our ads were about what is stormwater, and we did that for a good the first 5 years, and really moved the needle on awareness, plus many other organizations and the state government. Stormwater is a lot in the news. That, you know, the general awareness has certainly grown, but it's not all due to our efforts. The dog poop thing has really shown some great improvements there, with most, you know, good 70, 80% of the folks reportedly picking up their dog poop. With things like car washing, basically we find out a lot of people wash their car anymore. They just don't have time to do it at all. The one issues that we're still pinging on these days are lawn care issues, because many people, they don't really need fertilizer. We've been really trying to stress this message of applying your fertilizers in the fall and the spring, in the fall around Labor Day. What we found in our surveys, very interestingly, is that the people who still use fertilizer, they're not only fertilizing in the spring or in the fall like they should, they're also fertilizing in the spring and in the summer. So they're just hitting it all the time. So we've been trying to, in our public outreach, like, hey, everybody, in the fall, do it in the fall or not at all. That's been our tagline on that one. We've also, our more recent focus is to focus on rain gardens and flow. So this is our most recent ad. I'll see how well it shows up here.
When planning your yard work this year, how about adding a rain garden? Heavy summer rains flow over roofs and driveways, picking up pollutants along the way. Rain gardens slow the flow by capturing storm runoff and improving water quality in both streams and the lake. As summer storms become more severe, you can help keep the lake clean by slowing the flow of stormwater. To learn more about how to build a rain garden, please visit
Okay, hopefully that didn't blow out your speakers. But that's where we've been focusing lately, again, because we've seen our basic messaging around the pollutant angle, meaning fertilizer, dog poop, pesticides, lawn care. We've been doing that for several years, and it's sort of taking the, we've seen good measurable improvements in that in terms of behavior. But what we're really trying to do is spread the message now on slowing the flow. So here's our main radio link to that. I should say that our funnest thing that we do on the website has been this Stormville thing that one of our first marketing firm created. I'll just show you one little clip of it because it's sort of a lot of fun. But this is a great resource for people, helps to get kids engaged. You're going to see our mythical monster from Lake Champlain, and anybody who emails me the correct name of the animal that lives in Lake Champlain, I'll send them a free magnet. So you get the rain. Okay, that's always a crowd pleaser, and then you can click in for more detailed information about things. We've tried to put links for teachers to use. We did have initial discussions with teachers about a dedicated stormwater curriculum, but it's always hard to work in with their parameters as teachers what they have to do. So that's kind of where our website's been at these days. I want to touch on a few things here just to wrap up and transition. How am I doing on time, Justin?
I'm checking that right now. You've got another 5 minutes, and we do have a couple questions that have come in, so be ready for those.
Okay. All right. So before actually, why don't we do questions, and then I'll do a little handoff to Laura.
Okay, great.
So the first question is, will you please give some additional detail on your baseline survey and any follow-up surveys you have conducted? How did you reach the participants? Was it a struggle to get responses?
Okay. If you go to accomplishments here on the website, right here I am on accomplishments, and there's a thing here that says our 2013 Public Stormwater Survey, and you can click on that. This is the whole report. We've been doing our survey every 5 years, so this has a nice mix of it. It takes some work. We had to pay. We have a contract with the university, and it's several $1,000s to pay them to do the phone calls, but we got over 400 responses, which is a statistically valid sample. It is still a challenge to reach younger people because they don't use landlines and all. So, but if people want to read all about the report, it's all here, and people can contact me directly. But this will give a lot of background. It lists all the questions, the frequency, and then does a comparison with 2008.
Great, thank you. The second question is, would the videos be available for use in other areas? For example, would we be able to get permission to use the videos?
Yes, you can. People contact me. What's nice is that if you do use the video, we ask that there be at the end of it some acknowledgement or something like that of, used with the permission of and thanks to Chittenden County Regional Stormwater Education Program.
Cool. I think that was the last question that we had.
Okay. So just to kick it off here to, I don't know if you got Laura next or not, but
Denise is actually next.
Okay, but when you get to Laura, so as I mentioned, the first one was public education and outreach. In 2011, 8 years into our program, we also, all our municipalities, our MS4s, well, almost all of them, we said, okay, we do a regional project for the public involvement part, and that's the Chittenden County Stream Team, which again is about hands-on activity. And just as the case where we contracted with a marketing firm to do minimum measure 1, we contracted with a good watershed organization, the Winooski Conservation District, to handle that hands-on type activities, and Laura will be touching on that. And that's me, if anybody wants to get a hold of me for further information.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Hope you'll stay on the line for a bit.
Okay.
So yeah, next up we have Denise Smith with Friends of Northern Lake Champlain.
It allows me to show my screen.
Here you go, Denise.
There it is. Okay.
How are you?
Okay, so let's see. I don't want that up. Can you guys see my email? Hang on.
Yes, we can. Anything good in it?
Sorry. No, I don't think so. Okay, well, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Denise Smith, and I'm the executive director of an organization in northern Lake Champlain called Friends of Northern Lake Champlain. And I live about 25 miles north of Burlington, and I'm about 15 miles from the Canadian border, a town called St. Albans, just to give everybody sort of a geographic picture of where we're at. And our organization was a grassroots organization started in the Missisquoi Bay, which is a heavily impaired bay in Lake Champlain with lots of phosphorus issues. We have stormwater and ag issues in our area, and our organization, if I'll just zoom in a little bit, but we're funded. It was started by a group of people that live in and around Missisquoi Bay. We're funded mostly by membership. We do a number of events throughout the year to raise money, and then we have business and support for municipalities as well. We receive project funds from what we have in Vermont, and I think somebody else probably mentioned this, is the Ecosystem Restoration Program and the Lake Champlain Basin Program, as well as some private foundations. So the projects that I'll show in a little bit are sourced from all different resources. As most nonprofits, we apply for a lot of grants. Our focus on stormwater started in about 2011. We currently have one MS4 community, and that's St. Albans, and they just started going through the MS4 permitting process. And we actually are working with regional planning and the city and the town. But our work started prior to the MS4 designation. We started working on stormwater mapping and planning projects, and we've done master plans. We started with 6 municipalities in Franklin County developing stormwater master plans for their communities. We also work directly with farmers implementing best management practices for stormwater on their farms. To date, between 2011 and today, we have almost, and I say almost because I have 2 or 3 in the works right now, but we have created stormwater master plans for about 11 communities. In those plans, just in Franklin County, we've identified about 350 stormwater problems. And now what we're trying to do is work with the towns, individuals, if it's on individual land, and also other watershed organizations to implement projects that make the most sense. We also, regional planning has taken on some of the projects, and we have also worked directly with municipalities if they want us to be the lead applicant on a grant, for instance. We'll do that. However, if it makes more sense for the municipality to apply for the money, then they'll do that. So essentially, what we try to do is kind of facilitate the movement of implementation projects forward. I'm just going to, this is a quick list of some current and finished projects. A little, something that I use a lot here to try to get more funding is that we have identified over 350 projects. We have personally implemented 2 at this point. So this list is some that have been implemented not with Ecosystem Restoration Project money, but with some other money or projects that are in the works. So I'll show you the ones that we've done. But so that's sort of the next level. Now we've got all these great reports. We've identified a ton of projects. You know, the next step is really the implementation piece. And as a watershed organization, we started doing that. I'm happy to say that Missisquoi River Basin Association's put in an ERP grant for one in Fairfield, and for this next round of money. And we're working with the municipalities and regional planning to kind of promote and get other organizations to apply for money to fund these projects that are out there. So here's sort of some pictures of some of the projects that we've done. This is actually right behind my house at the Franklin County Senior Center. This project was funded through a private foundation, Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, the grant we received to do some stormwater mapping in St. Albans City and then identify a location where there could be a potential project. And they identified a bioretention pond. It's not really a pond because there's rarely water in it that day. There just happened to be like 8 days of rain last summer. So there's a lot of rain in it then, but it has an under drain, and it captures over an acre of parking lot and a roof runoff. And it's very functional. It's a very good project. A couple of drawbacks about it. The seniors don't like it that much, and the kids like it a lot because there's rocks in it, and it's in a neighborhood. So it's a very different looking landscaped element to a front yard. The good news is it's working really well. They haven't had any issues with the stormwater drain that this drains into right at the bottom, so it's functioning, and I'm trying to figure out a way to better incorporate it into the landscape of the senior center. So that's one project, and we completed that one last spring. That was the first project after I took this job, and it had already been engineered and designed. This next project that I'm showing a picture of is the step pool drainage project in the village of Enosburg Falls, and this project has been very successul. So this project drains approximately 11 acres of surface from the village, so it's mostly impervious. There is some, maybe 21 acres, actually it's more, yeah, it's 21 acres. And there's a school directly across the street from this, an elementary school, and the town garage, or the village garage is, so if you're looking at the picture, it's over to the right. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, and it drains into a wetland, and through the trees you can almost see it, but that's the Missisquoi River. So what we did here, there had been a ditch, a line ditch put in the 1990s, and it was completely full of sediment with a lot of, I mean, it was just eroding on the sides because it was so full. The water wasn't going down where it was supposed to go, so there was erosion down at the bottom part of the river, of the drainage area. So with an ERP grant, we designed this using some engineers, and we implemented it. And the village was very involved in helping with the bid process. Working with the community was really important. And every time we go up there, the water does not stop running, so that, and it's functioning. The pools get cleaner and cleaner the further down you go. There is some maintenance that's required with this, as you probably all know, but there will be some times that they're going to have to go in and take out the sediment and make sure the weeds are cut back along the sides. This is all grown in, by the way, right now along the sides, so it's all grassy and green. This was probably, I think there's still snow on the ground, so that might have been early spring that I took that picture. The next picture is a project that we did in Georgia on Red Barn Hill last spring and actually last fall, and finally completed it this spring. So this one surprised us a little bit. It was one of the projects that was identified in our stormwater mapping. It was a project that the town really wanted to do. The road has a lot of water issues. It was a development that was put in the 1970s up on a hill, and there was no consideration for stormwater flow of water when they developed this. prior to us coming in, and this was one of the surprises, the ditch had been lined with asphalt, and so there was no penetration of water. And what was happening at the bottom of the hill, where the water, you can almost see it in that top picture, down where that red barn is, there's a scour hole that was forming, and it was basically eating away at the road. And last fall, when we would go out there, every time we went out, it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So we used ERP funds to design a swale, a grass swale, and to put check dams in. Unfortunately, we put it in late last spring or last fall, and it was it didn't get completed in time. So we put it in, and I think there was probably 2 or 3 days of rain, snow, ice soon after, and so the whole thing sort of became a muddy mess. Very mucky. The good news was that the check dams were working extremely well, but the water was, it was slowing down, and there was some sedimentation that was not moving down the hill, but it did become quite messy. This spring was wet again, so we waited until about actually it was probably 3 weeks ago, that we went out there with the town crew and put rocks in between the check dams down lower. Part of the challenge with this area was we had done some soil testing at the bottom of the hill, and it's very sandy. As you go up the hill, the soils become much more clay-like. So we had a lot of issues with the soils, which is why we ultimately decided to put rocks in down. And then the green that you see, this was a partnership really with the Regional Planning Commission up here, Northwest Regional Planning. A couple of things. In the picture on the right, you see a mat. They had a grant to use some innovative technologies, and we put these mats down at the outlets, inlets and outlets of all of the culverts. And then through an ERP grant, they've purchased a hydro seeder. 5 communities have gone in on a hydro seeder together. And the day that they were doing their training and demonstration, they came to Red Barn Hill to seed down the sides of the ditches to prevent further erosion. And so that was a huge blessing for our project and for water quality. So now basically both sides of the ditch are seeded. There's check dams and rocks, and so the water's going down at the pace that it's supposed to go down, and it's slowing down. There was a lot of conversations with neighbors throughout this project, and some of them I think are still upset that they cannot mow the ditch, but it is in the town's right-of-way, and the town has been very supportive of this project, and in hopes that it's going to help with the water issues along the road. So the next thing that I'm just going to show you, these are 2 on-farm projects that we've done, and some of this was funded through ERP money, some of it was funded through a 319 grant, but we did pilot projects for some water and sediment control basins at the edge of some farm fields in Franklin County, and we identified 6 farms to install these at. And essentially, that's the bottom picture right there, the wascott at the edge of a farm. And so essentially, it's a detention pond for water coming off of a field. There's usually two detention ponds, and so one flows into the other. And the goal is to let the sediment settle out before the water moves on. Again, Franklin County has a lot of very clay-like soils, and so the more you can slow that water down before it just shoots into the rivers, the better. Most of these seem to be functioning pretty well. I drive by one on a pretty regular basis, actually 2 of them on a pretty regular basis. What we found from some earlier tests is that if there's no practice on the field to help soak up the nutrients, wasp cobs are not that effective. So if there was a grass swale before arriving to the wasp cob, or if there was some strip cropping, that the wascobs are much more effective in terms of reducing nutrients leaving the wascob if those things are happening on the field. And the top project is a project in Sheldon, and it's a silage leachate project that we just completed on a farm. And essentially, this project has taken quite a while to actually come to fruition because of the complications of it. But the good news is we were able to incorporate a bunk that we didn't think we were going to be able to incorporate into the system, and the farmer doesn't have to build a new bunk, which was one of the original proposals for this project. So what you're seeing right here are the 3 bunks that are leaching out, and that water is coming from the bunks. And what we did is we put concrete in with a swale in the middle, and then these little, almost like these little pipe check dams. You see where that one is ponding right there? You have this pipe check dam that's sort of slowing the flow from that, and the farmer can get in there and scoop that out. And then at the end, closer, there's a screen system that the farmer can go in and scoop out and clean. And then the next stage for that is to go into a field detention area where it's going to be able to feed into, basically we're doing a constructed wetland project out in the field. So that's been a really interesting, exciting project. Again, I have to say relationships are absolutely key in making any of these happen. And it was touch and go for a while, but I think we've come up with a really good project for him and for water quality. So I just wanted to talk about a couple of lessons that we've learned. Partners are extremely valuable in all of these projects. You need, NRCS, not NRCS, sorry, but Northwest Regional Planning Commission has been a huge asset to us for a lot of this stuff, as well as the municipalities. So knowing your town officials, meeting with the select boards, going and speaking to them on a pretty regular basis is really important. So having good communications between town official and project partners, one thing that has really helped us is, we know the road foreman up here, and if I don't, my board does. So we have, or they serve on the select board for the communities that we're working in. And so that's been a really instrumental in us being able to get some of these projects off the ground. This project in Georgia, the Red Barn Hill project, the town devoted their town's crew time, and they thought it was going to be a 2-day project, and it turned into, it was probably 2.5 weeks last fall, and then another 2 or 3 days this past spring. So, and that means that they're not doing other projects that the town needs to have done. So that's really important to have those good relationships with them. A budget and a project administrator to manage the funds is also very important. Things change on a dime. You need more concrete, and you have to understand that costs more money. And so making sure you know where the money's coming from, what the budget is, and how you're going to fund the project so you don't end up in the hole, basically, is extremely, extremely important. I think having a good engineering firm with a strong comprehension of the project and what they're doing as well is very important, and that serves us well. And then I just think, again, just having those relationships and having that open communication, because these projects can get complicated, they change, and sometimes there's a lot of people that have to get involved, especially when you're talking about permits. And I think that's all I have right now. And if anybody has any questions for me.
So I don't see any yet, but we'll give it a minute to come in. I'm curious, are you predominantly at this point using the stormwater master plans to identify projects?
That's one of our, yes, I would say that's our primary thing. I have been getting phone calls from people, like towns and individuals, asking about certain things. What's funny is when I go and then look at the stormwater master plan that we've created, they're always in there. So if somebody brings a project to us, Justin, I'll go and look in the Stormwater Master Plan to see if it's identified already. And 9 times out of 10, actually, I don't think I've had one that was not identified in our Stormwater Master Plan at this point.
Cool. Good. So I don't see any other questions that have come in. Are you able to hang on until the end, or do you have to go?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
That's all I had this afternoon. How late does it go till?
Probably 2:20, 2:30.
Okay. Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
So we're going to move on to the next presenter, Laura Duglecki with the Winooski Natural Resources Conservation District.
Hello.
Hi, Laura.
Hi. Okay. My screen should be there, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Just trying to get it into slideshow mode here. Okay. So thank you so much for having me. And as you said, I'm from the Winooski Natural Resources Conservation District. And today I'm going to talk about some of the stormwater programs that we manage and participate in. First, briefly, I'm just going to mention a little bit about ourselves. The Winooski Conservation District is one of 14 conservation districts across the state of Vermont. We work in a lot of different drainage basins, but we focus a lot of our work within the Winooski River watershed. And our district covers all of Chittenden County, Washington County, and a part of Orange County. We kind of split our work into 4 different areas of agriculture, forestry, urban conservation, and watershed stewardship. And the majority of our work in those areas focuses on non-point source pollution prevention and water quality improvements through BMP implementation, outreach and education in the community. And we primarily work with landowners and municipalities. So today I'm going to mostly talk about the programs that fall under our urban conservation umbrella of work. As Dan mentioned, the Chittenden County Stream Team is a program that the district manages. This is a project designed to engage citizens across 8 towns in Chittenden County. There are 8 MS4 communities from Chittenden County that are members of the Stream Team, and we manage hands-on participation in water quality improvement activities, stormwater BMP implementation, and education and outreach in those communities. Oops. Of course, that pops up. So I'm going to just kind of talk about some of the activities that we do with the Stream Team. Each summer we have volunteers. We rely heavily on volunteers for all of the Stream Team activities. Each summer we have volunteers who sample water quality in the 8 communities, and then we report that data to the state. We work with a lot of different like school groups or community organizations, Boy Scout troops, where we will meet with them and provide them education about watershed health and stormwater issues in their area, and then we will do an activity with those groups like a stream cleanup or something else in the community that allows us to talk about stormwater issues locally. We also table at community events like farmers markets or community festivals, and at these tabling events we provide information to homeowners about our upcoming workshops and events or things that they can do on their own properties to manage stormwater. And generally we bring like a demonstration rain barrel so that people can see the barrel and interact with it and ask us questions. We also offer workshops on stormwater issues and rain barrels, similar as to what Ann was talking about earlier. This is a photo here from our most recent workshop in Shelburne. Participants came and made their own rain barrel, and we keep the price very affordable, around $30, just to cover the price of the hardware and the barrel. And they build their own barrel and learn about why it's important, how to install it, how to maintain it, what they can and cannot use the water for. The stream team also has 9 public rain gardens that we've helped maintain over time. Some of the gardens predate the formation of the stream team, but we maintain them, and others we've helped install. The gardens are in public spaces like libraries, town offices, or schools, and we have an adopt a rain garden.
Hey, Laura, next time that comes up, just select one of those options and you should be good.
Yeah, I just figured it out. This time I actually read it, and
okay, good.
Hopefully it won't pop up again. So sorry for that distraction. So we, in our Adopt a Rain Garden program, individuals can sign up to become an adopter to adopt the public rain garden. And they assist in weeding and keeping the gardens clean and attractive, and communicating with us if the garden needs more mulch or plants, or if there's anything wrong going with the garden. And then the stream team can support the volunteer with the materials they need to keep the garden running. And then these public rain gardens are also demonstration and educational sites for the community. Becky's going to be talking more about this Connecting the Drops program a little later, but I'm going to touch on it briefly. The Connecting the Drops program, this will be the second year that this stormwater outreach program is running. This year we'll be targeting it in the towns of Essex and Essex Junction, but it involves stormwater outreach with a lot of information about rain barrels. There are rain barrels on display in the public that are decorated by artists. And this year, Stream Team is participating in Connecting the Drops by hosting a rain barrel workshop. It's actually this Saturday. We'll also be tabling at the Essex Junction Block Party and Essex Junction Farmers Market to kind of promote this outreach campaign. And we'll be encouraging homeowners to install rain gardens and rain barrels and to volunteer with us to get involved in the community and learn more about stormwater issues. Another program that that the district manages in partnership with Sea Grant is the Let It Rain program. This is a landowner financial incentive program. When the district has funding available through our Let It Rain program, we can offset the cost of installing LID practices that meet the program requirements. So a landowner can sign up, and if they meet the requirements of the program, and after a site visit, we can help offset the cost of installing this an LID practice. The Let It Rain program can also provide technical assistance and site visits to landowners to help them find out ways to manage stormwater runoff on their property. I wanted to share with you an example of someone who participated in the Let It Rain incentive program. This has been a very popular program. There have been over 60 people who have signed up for the incentive program. There's a lot of interest. So this participant signed up for the program, and after working with us, decided to install a rain garden adjacent to his workplace in Middlebury. He decided that this was a good place to install a rain garden because it was adjacent to a parking lot and they were having a lot of runoff issues. So we felt like this was a great environmental and educational opportunity for his business. And currently, he and his coworkers help maintain the rain garden, and they are pretty excited about the aesthetic values it adds to their place of work as well. Also, with our Let It Rain program, we're kind of branching out a little bit more into the outreach and education component for stormwater education. We recently received a grant from the Lake Champlain Basin program to expand Let It Rain's outreach efforts and to school kids. And this is a really great opportunity because schools have a lot of impervious surfaces such as roofs, playgrounds, compacted lawns, parking lots. So they provide an excellent laboratory for students to learn about stormwater issues and to implement LID practices and see how the behavior of water changes with the introduction of those practices. We'll be working with schools to develop age-appropriate curriculum for kids, and building off of existing curriculum and maybe developing some new curriculum. But we're kind of just getting this program started, and we're pretty excited about it and see a lot of potential, because it seems that there's not a lot of age-appropriate stormwater education materials out there. So we hope to make a difference with this. And that's all I've got. So thank you so much for your time, and I'll take any questions if you have any.
I do not see any questions coming up yet. There might be some that come up later.
Okay, great.
All right. So I'll ask you a question then. So do you have a method for tracking success or measuring success with the programs?
Well, we do like to count how many installations we've done. We've had some calculations in the past for how much impervious area we've offset with installation of LID practices. We do also track how many organizations we've worked with and how many members of the public we work with. So we do try to keep track of numbers in that manner.
Yep. And are you doing website tracking on the Stream Team website and all that too?
You mean of like how many people interact with the website?
Hits and all that. Yep.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
And do you see spikes during certain times of the year?
Definitely. For example, after the Rain Barrel workshop we held in April, there was a big spike, well, big for us, a big spike in website traffic. And, after outreach events, I often direct people to our website or to our Facebook page, and so we'll get bumps in likes or website visits.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, no other questions, but if some come up, I hope you'll hang around.
Sure, definitely.
Thanks, Laura. And moving on to our last presenter, Rebecca Tharp with Lake Champlain Sea Grant, who has been waiting patiently.
Yes, exactly. So hi, my name is Becky Tharp, and I'm the Land Use Planning and Water Quality Educator at Lake Champlain Sea Grant. The Sea Grant program is a national program, and we're just one of 33 in the nation. And we're administered by the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. In addition to all of the coastal and Great Lakes states that have a Sea Grant program, Lake Champlain is lucky enough to have one, even while we were a Great Lake for a couple of weeks, I think. But we kept our Sea Grant program. There's also one in Guam and Puerto Rico. So we're a university-based network with over 300 institutions across the U.S. And nationally, the program addresses issues like coastal hazards, sustainable coastal development, and seafood safety. Those topics are more popular with the coastal programs, but where we are, we're obviously not on a seashore, so we deal with more upland issues of stormwater. And I'm just realizing my slides aren't advancing, so I'm going to try. It appears I'm frozen on my screen.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I can't. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're back. So the Lake Champlain Sea Grant program, we're a cooperative between UVM, the University of Vermont, and the State University, New York in Plattsburgh. And because we're not on the seashore, we focus less on some of the coastal issues and more on upland stormwater issues. But we also do have a staff member at SUNY Plattsburgh that does a lot of fisheries research and aquatic invasive species research and outreach. And on this side of the lake, we have we do a lot of aquatic science literacy, working directly with schools through the Watershed Alliance, a new program called 4H2O, which is modeled after the popular 4H program. And we also do training with professional groups. In addition, we've really moved into doing more research and outreach on hazard resiliency, especially as it relates to climate change in the area. And what I focus on is hazard resiliency and the stormwater, or more specifically, green stormwater infrastructure. So we have sort of three main topics or foci that we do on our current stormwater initiatives, and they include training courses, and for instance we have a Sustainable Landscape Stewards training course, which I'll talk more about, and the Water Resources for Realtors course. We also, as Laura mentioned, help to manage the Let It Rain Stormwater program, and as part of that, the Connecting the Drops outreach campaign. And then we also fund and do a couple of different research projects currently. One of them that we just got funding from NOAA to do is evaluating flood prediction tools in 2 Lake Champlain subwatersheds. And another is a bioretention project on the UVM campus that's managed by 2 outside faculty members here. So largely, I mean, a lot of the folks we've heard from today are doing direct service on the ground, and Lake Champlain Sea Grant doesn't tend to do the direct service, but what we do try and do is support watershed groups by providing training opportunities, most recent science, and other kinds of support to municipalities and organizations so they can do their jobs really well. So the first training program that I'll talk about that's related to stormwater is the Sustainable Landscape Stewards. This training program was developed with funding from the Vermont Forest Parks and Recreation Department, and we just did a pilot program just this past spring. And it's focused on, it's a training course for community leaders, and that means people who are municipal boards or watershed groups, town staff, anyone who's really making decisions at the local level. It included 36 hours of instruction on evenings and weekends, where we did evening classroom-based lecture-style instruction, and then Saturdays we would go out into the field and really see some of the stuff that we talked about in class in action. We were able to offer some continuing ed credits from UVM, which for many of the people interested in the course was an important thing, just as an added bonus for doing the course. You do get credits from the university. And like I said, we had classroom and field components and many community partners. We had Dan from CCRPC presented. We had Ann from the Friends of the Winooski River come in. Laura from Winooski Conservation District came and presented. Town staff out in Williston. We had the Land Trust partners present. People from the university. It was we really couldn't have done the class without experts in each of the areas, really diving in deep. But the goal of the class is really to educate decision makers and engage citizens on the impact of their land use on water quality in communities, so that they would be able to influence improved decisions at the town level. This spring we had 6 participants, and for our pilot, and based on the feedback that we got from those participants, we'll be making some alterations, mainly to the schedule of the program to accommodate people's busy lives. And we'll be offering it in the fall, and where we'll be gearing it more between 10 and 20 participants is what we hope to do the class at, because it's pretty in-depth, so we can't really do more than that at any time. The other course that we've been working on is a Water Resources for Realtors course. So we've offered this to over 100 realtors in Vermont this spring, and we're taking a hiatus for the summer because anyone who knows anything about realtors knows that they're busiest in the summertime. So we're giving them the time off, and we'll start back up in the fall. So this is a land use course for Vermont licensed realtors, but we will be offering it in New York in the fall as well. There's a different process in order to make it eligible for the state licensing credits. So this is a shorter, much shorter course than the Sustainable Landscape Stewards. It's a 2.5-hour workshop, eligible for 2 continuing ed credits from the Vermont State Licensing Board, which all Vermont licensed realtors are required to have continuing ed credits. We offered across the state. We did classes as far north as St. Albans, and we did a class in Manchester and one in Burlington. So we try and reach every corner of the state. And we cover topics about the state of the lake, state of our rivers, wetlands, green stormwater infrastructure, mapping to predict flood risk. And we really try and, we're gearing it specifically to realtors about the issues that realtors care about. So like any of the folks who work in outreach realize that you have to meet people with where they're interested. So when you talk to maybe school groups, you talk about swimming and how those kids interact with with the lake and the rivers. And when we talk to realtors, we really wanted to talk about, well, how do waterways impact the properties that you're selling? And that's sort of what hooks them. And then we talk about green stormwater infrastructure and how that can be a real useful tool, and also just thoughtful land management and development to mitigate risk of flooding and damage. Our strong partner in this is the Lake Champlain Basin Program, who do all the presentations with us and put together the course with us as well. So as Laura already presented on, we also partake with the Conservation District in the Let It Rain Stormwater Program. So this program started about 3 years ago as an incentive program for green stormwater infrastructure installations on residential, well, not just residential, but mainly residential properties. They're small pots of money when money is available. But even when money isn't available for people to get offset for the cost of installations, we also do site visits and technical assistance to anyone in the Lake Champlain Basin. So we routinely get called out for people who are interested. They want to do something. They're not quite sure what. Maybe they have an erosion problem. They want to do what's lake-friendly. And we'll go out and give them advice on what they should do. And then if we do have money available, we can offer to offset the cost of the installation. And like Laura said, we track those practices based on the impervious surface area that's mitigated. A project that we're also working on, which is somewhat related to Let It Rain and actually Laura's program, the Chittenden County Stream Team, is that this summer we're doing a mapping project of all of the public green infrastructure practices throughout the Lake Champlain Basin on the Vermont side. And we're going to do an interactive map that shows what the status of some of those projects are, or what the status of all of them are. Over the past 10 years, there have been many installations of rain gardens and other similar practices on public property, but the maintenance of those is questionable. And the work that Laura does is so important to tie volunteers with these public rain gardens, but we know that there are some that are still not being maintained. So if you've ever seen the international development model where there'll be a map that shows where all the wells are, and then you can scroll over a well and you can get live information about, is the well active, is it broken, is it working? We want to do the same thing but for all these rain gardens and other green infrastructure practices, so we can really get a sense of where do we stand with all of these. Are they looking good? Do they need an adopter? Do they need someone to take care of them? Are they totally defunct? Has there been regrading so they're not collecting water anymore? And then hopefully we can put some of our attention going forward in maintaining or responding to changes in some of the infrastructure that exists. So the Connecting the Drops project, as Laura mentioned, the first one we did was last summer, and it's an art-based outreach campaign. And it was really designed as an outreach campaign for Let It Rain, just to get more people. We had funding for it, and we wanted to get more people aware that it existed and that they could sign up and get money to put in a rain barrel or a rain garden. We focused on Burlington last year as the biggest city in the state, and wanted to really capitalize on all the foot traffic that the Church Street Marketplace gets. We were funded by the ECOS project, which was a federally funded project through the CCRPC, and we also got some money from the Regional Stormwater Education Program. We had 19 rain barrels that were all decorated by local artists and installed on the pedestrian way in Burlington. And I think the real important part of the project was at the top of each barrel we fastened one page of a unique written stormwater story, which we partnered with the Kids Vermont magazine to write and illustrate. And it tells the story of an urban drop of rain and its path to the lake. And it's really an accessible way to get the word out about what stormwater is and what the problem is. And I heard a lot of people say, oh, I thought it was just rain. And so it sort of puts it in simple enough terms so that people can understand it. So it was a great success last year. We had many elements of that project. And the Regional Stormwater Education Program was impressed with it and felt like it really benefited their outreach efforts as well, and they wanted to do another one this year. So this year we've scaled the program way back, but we're doing it just in Essex Junction and Maple Street Park. We still have the stormwater story. It's altered a little bit to be more specific, not to Burlington, but to the general area. And it'll run through, we just installed on Monday, and it'll run through July 16th. You can go see those barrels in Maple Street Park right now. You can also sign up to win one of those rain barrels at no cost and read the Kids Vermont Stormwater story at letitrainvt.org. That's also where you sign up to get more information about installing any stormwater practice on your property. So the current research that we're doing right now at Sea Grant, we had this recent grant award from the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Association. So we're doing some research on flood mitigation, and essentially we're analyzing 3 prediction tools, including NRCS floodable soils data, the fluvial erosion hazard layer, and FEMA map layers that indicate the floodways. And we're basically comparing those layers to each other and seeing where they differ and where they're the same, and then looking at historic flood damage areas and comparing that to the layers and seeing, do they overlap, do they make sense, is there clear differences where there's historic flood damage in certain areas. And then we're also taking the predictions, the climate change predictions for increased flood damage and where those levels scientists predict will be in 25 and 50 years, and then seeing where there's potential improvements to our tools to be used for improved zoning to mitigate flood risk at our infrastructure. So that's a 2-year project that we just started this June, so we're just getting our feet wet in that. And then the other project that Sea Grant is funding is it's a bioretention research on UVM campus. It's run by Carol Adair and Stephanie Hurley. And they're evaluating water quality and greenhouse gas emissions under different planting regimes and storm loading and soil treatments. There's a lot to the project, but essentially they have these different units that they're monitoring over time for flow and pollutant removal. And you can learn a whole lot more about the project at their website, which is posted there. That's all I have. Any questions?
I think there was just one question that came up about whether your PowerPoint would be available afterwards, and we answered that. I'll do my best to get PDF versions of all the presenters' PowerPoints, and we'll put those on our website, and I'll send out a link probably either later this week or early next week.
Certainly. Great.
Okay, so I'm actually going to do the unthinkable and unmute all of our presenters at the same time.
Chaos.
Chaos. So we're just waiting for other questions to come in. I believe there was one for Laura. Laura, you're still on the line?
Yes.
The question for you is, what do you do with your water quality data? Do you share it with the public, municipalities, or anyone else?
Well, we share it with the state first in a report, and it goes onto a state website. But then also, and you can find it on the DEC website, but also we post it on the Chittenden County Stream Team website. It's listed in like a table format, and it's got the last 2 years of data there.
Great, thank you. This question is for Becky.
Yeah.
Can you share your realtor training for other states?
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. Certainly, if you want to contact me at my email, we'd be happy to share it with other states.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
That's all the questions we have right now.
Okay, any last-minute burning questions from the audience? All right, doesn't look like it. Of course, there's always some that come in at the last second or two, but I do want to thank everyone for attending today, and I want to give a reminder that we are recording the webinar, and we're going to put this on our YouTube channel, so you should see the link for that there. But I'll send you a direct link to the recording, again, either later this week or early next week. If you want to contact me for any reason whatsoever, there's my contact information, email and phone number. And I just want to close off by thanking all of our presenters, Ann, Bob, Dan, Denise, Laura, and Becky, for taking the time to talk with us today. Thank you so much.
Sure, Justin, anytime.
Thanks for having us.
Cool. And that's it for me. So hope everybody has a great day. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.